Hello crafty friends, today I'm sharing a tutorial to go with Paige Evans' Christmas tree Cutfile. This is a Cutfile from Paige's Christmas Cutfile bundle for 2025, and I used this Cutfile on a page in my December daily album. I altered the Cutfile to make it interactive with the layers of the tree opening upwards, so it can reveal more photos and journaling. And I just wanted to make a short tutorial just in case this is something you wanted to recreate. Okay, so I made this tutorial a bit topsy-turvy, starting with showing you the end result first. Next, I'm going to show how to assemble the cutout pieces, and then I'll go on to show you how to alter the Cutfile before cutting the pieces out. On the left-hand side, you can see the completed page, and on the right-hand side, you can see the different components. So we've got the Christmas tree shape, which is going to be the cardstock base. We've got the pattern paper pieces, which are going to be the layers of the tree. And then we've got these other cardstock pieces, which are going to form the interactive layers. So as you can see, I'm folding the interactive cardstock pieces in half and adhering them to the cardstock base. You should start from the top, not like I did, starting from the bottom. You'll see why that was an error later. But fortunately, I recognized the mistake in time, and after semi-adhering the bottom layer, I just went straight to the top and started assembling it from the top. When adhering the layers, make sure you flip up the top half of the folded piece of cardstock before adhering the next layer on top. So now we have the interactive layers working. All we have to do is add the pattern paper layers. Next, I'm going to move on to showing how to alter the Cutfile designs in the Silhouette Studio software. First, I resized it to fit my album. It measures 5.5 inch in width and 6.5 inch in height. I used the Cutfile on a divider page in my album, which is slightly larger than the 6x8 page. If you are using this Cutfile on a 6x8 page, you might have to reduce the size even further. Next, I separated the pieces of the Cutfile by right-clicking on the image and clicking on the Release Compound Path option in the drop-down menu. This separated the outline and the negative pieces of the Cutfile. The outline is going to be the cardstock base, and the negative shapes are going to be the pattern paper pieces. In between the two, we need the interactive elements of the Cutfile. To create these, I'm going to be using the offset option from the sidebar on the right-hand side. So first, I'm just creating some space between the negative pieces, and then I create an offset image around each piece. So this is a bit of a trial and error situation, as I'm having to tweak the distance of the offset image from the original shape in order to find the right size which corresponds perfectly with the cardstock base. So here you can see how I'm measuring the offset pieces against the cardstock base, just to make sure that they are approximately the same size. And because both pieces are going to be cut out of the same green cardstock, they don't have to be exactly the same size, but I like them to be as near the same size as possible, as this gives the finished Cutfile a much neater appearance. Next, we are going to create the fold-out interactive bits, and to do this, I first select the top layer of the tree. I duplicate this shape by right-clicking on the image and selecting the duplicate function from the drop-down menu, and then I flip the duplicated image vertically. So this creates a mirror image of the original shape reflected on the horizontal axis. I then position the two shapes so that they slightly overlap at the top, and I use the weld function from the drop-down menu to weld the two shapes into one. Okay, so that was the easy bit. The other three layers of the tree are going to be slightly more complex. First, I create 3 rectangular shapes using the drawing tool from the side menu on the right. I use the close shape option for this, which is symbolized with a rectangle, and is about the 3rd option from the top in my software. So next, I select one of the rectangles and I overlay it from the top with the next Christmas tree layer. I adjust the width of the rectangle so that it is the same or just a little bit wider than the top of the tree layer. I make sure they overlap and also that the top will be covered by the tree layer above before welding them together using the weld function from the drop-down menu. If there is any trapped space in the new shape, I use the Release Compound Path option from the drop-down menu to get rid of the unwanted pieces. Next, I follow the same steps as I did with the top layer. Duplicate the image, flip it vertically, overlay the 2 images at the top and weld them together. All of these options are in the drop-down menu and can be accessed by right-clicking on the image. Duplicate, flip horizontally, then weld. Next, I make a start on the 3rd and 4th layer of the tree. I'm going to do this side by side rather than one and then the other. It's just a little bit easier for me. First, I line up the rectangle at the top of the tree layer. As you can see in here, I'm tweaking the width of the rectangle and the positioning to make sure that the shape doesn't peek out from underneath the layer above, and I'm using the original Cutfile image to do this as a visual guide. Next, I'm going to use the weld function to weld the 2 shapes together. I use the Release Compound Path function from the drop-down menu to get rid of any trapped space, and then I use the duplicate function to duplicate the shape. I flip the duplicated shape vertically. I slightly overlay it with the original shape and then I use the weld function to weld the 2 shapes together. As the last step, I'm going to slightly modify the pattern paper pieces just to make them look a little bit neater as the layers of the tree being flipped up, because it just corresponds with the interactive cardstock pieces a bit more. So basically I'm using the same technique as I did for the cardstock pieces. I created some rectangles, I overlay a rectangle with the tree layer, and then I use the weld function to weld the 2 shapes together. So here are all the final shapes required to make this interactive Christmas tree, which is a variation on Paige Evans's Christmas tree Cutfile from the 2025 Christmas Cutfile bundle. I hope you found this tutorial helpful in some way. I'm not the best at explaining things, but hopefully the video part of it will be helpful. And thank you for stopping by, and have a very Merry Christmas, everybody. Bye now.